Did you know that there was a period in Dead by Daylight's history when hackers were able to make it so that public matches took place on different unused and unreleased developer maps? Well, in this video a hacking huntress has forced the survivors to load into a secret Backwater swamp map. What I can infer is that this map seems to be a Rotten Fields / Wrecker's Yard type of map, with it featuring no unique main building. The only landmarks that can be found on this map are the shack, the pier and possibly the cursed cabin, although the available footage is very limited, and so we cannot really determine much else, as the details are kind of unclear. Now, the reason why there is so little footage in the first place is because the killer was using an Insta Memento Mori hack, which allows survivors to be moried without even being hooked. And the huntress killed everyone so fast that the match was too short for players to be able to explore the whole map. Still, I think it's safe to say that the map doesn't look too big, and the overall shape of it is rectangular. This video was actually provided to me by a viewer, and according to them the map is called map_3_name, which suggests that this was going to be the third map that was planned for the Backwater Swamp realm, with Pale Rose being the first and Grim Pantry being the second. And as you know, there is another unused swamp map sitting around somewhere in the game files, that being the one with the village main building. So that makes a total of 4 maps in the Backwater Swamp realm. Do you know which other realms also had 4 maps in them? That's right, it's the 3 original realms, the Macmillan Estate, Coldwind Farm and Autohaven Wreckers. Now, when Dead by Daylight came out in 2016, these 3 realms only featured 4 maps in them, not 5, because Fractured Cowshed, Gas Heaven and the Groaning Storehouse were added a lot later. And so, is it a coincidence that all of these realms had exactly 4 maps associated with them? Well, no, that's not a coincidence. In fact, the swamp was planned to be released along with the original release of Dead by Daylight, but because of time constraints and deadlines, the developers weren't able to complete all of the swamp maps in time, and so some of the maps from that realm were individually released in future patches. But we are left with the following question: why was map_3_name not released when it looks completely finished? Unfortunately, I cannot really give a definitive answer to this, but I am curious to see what you guys think about it. Let me know down in the comments. Moving on to the next part of the video, a lot of you might already know that back in 2021, Behavior's license agreement with Netflix in relation to the Stranger Things chapter expired, and so Steve Harrington, Nancy Wheeler and the Demogorgon had to be removed from the in-game store, and players could no longer purchase these characters. But of course, if you had bought them before that, then you could still keep playing them. In addition, the Hawkins laboratory also had to be removed from the game, as apparently it was part of the license agreement as well. But only about less than a year after Stranger Things was quote-unquote removed from DBD, this video surfaced the internet, and people went absolutely nuts over this alleged new upcoming underground complex map. Many players thought that not only was the original Stranger Things chapter going to be returning, but a brand new chapter was also going to be introduced too, with some players speculating that the next killer would be Vecna, since during that time there was also some fake Vecna leaks that were going around. It is funny looking back on this now that we actually have Vecna in the game. Granted, pretty much all of the speculations turned out to be incorrect, and this map was never actually implemented in DBD, but perhaps the developers will do something with it in the future, as although this version of the map is clearly a very early work-in-progress prototype of some sort, with many of the rooms being completely empty and placeholder texts appearing on top of doorways, there are a few really cool ideas here, like for instance the custom basement and the baby Demogorgon in the cage. Now, it is possible that the developers made this map as a kind of honeypot scheme, where they intentionally create something misleading in order to catch and fire the person who had been leaking information about the game. So something similar to what happened with Bubba at the start of 2023, if you remember what I'm talking about. But please take all of what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because all of this is just speculation on my part. In all honesty, I really hope that the developers decide to actually finish and implement this map in Dead by Daylight. Speaking of Hawkins, what you're currently seeing on screen is a so-called deprecated version of the Hawkins National Laboratory. This asset was found on a developer map from the 5.6.2 patch. And these tiles are really not that interesting, as they are mostly comprised of empty rooms and corridors, with some broken geometry here and there that is not properly aligned with the rest of the wall. Something to note, however, is that the overall layout here doesn't share many similarities with the layout of the actual Hawkins map that we currently have, which honestly makes me wonder if the developers were perhaps thinking of adding more variations of the National Laboratory. Another possibility is that the layout on screen might have just been a very early version of the Hawkins map that wasn't approved for further development. By the way, if you want to check out the full footage of this, I have made sure to link the original video down in the description. Speaking of early versions, on the same exact developer map, right next to the deprecated Hawkins assets, you can find a prototype of the RPD East Wing. And when I say prototype, I really mean it. As you can see, none of this is textured. These are just very rough sketches of the walls and the overall shape of the map. For example, this is the East office, and even though all of this was just a prototype, the developers already had an idea of where to put the different doorways, windows and vault locations. However, something that I don't really understand myself is this little room over here, because if we look at the finished version of the map, there is nothing here, it's just a wall. Now, this prototype doesn't feature the main hall in any form, as the whole thing just cuts off right here. Something else that can be found on the same developer map is this weird staircase thingy, which was probably just used for testing elevation and locomotion on different surfaces. A 3D model mesh of the Blood Lodge can also be located right next to that. And fun fact, this is the original Blood Lodge from way back in the day, even before Auto Heaven Wreckers was reworked as part of the Realm Beyond update. Another thing on the developer map is this strange cube with a rock texture and strange lighting inside. I really do not know what this could have been used for. There is also a default ground texture tile, and this covers pretty much everything relating to the Unused developer map. I hope you all enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!